Good afternoon, guys. Today is October 17, 2021. It's a Sunday, and it's 5:05 in the afternoon. I am James Shusi Jr., and I am instructor for uh, GEM1, which is Life and Works of Rizal. Today, we will be making a summary video for week 8. That is Rizal's second trip. Okay, so the discussion will be divided into three segments. This is segment 1. So after the session, the student is expected to be able to trace the second journey of Rizal and discuss how his encounters affected his ideals. So the first place he went to, his first stop was Hong Kong, otherwise known as Yongkang in Philippine Hokkien Chinese. He had a 2 weeks stay there in 1888. Now, when he was there, he met reformist Jose Maria Basa and other Filipinos who were exiled in 1872 due to their alleged participation in the Cavite Mutiny. Basa had a pivotal role in financing and covertly bringing editions of La Solidaridad and copies of Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo into the country. So now, um, it has to be noted at this point in time, for context to understand here, that at this point in time, Hong Kong is under the British. Okay, China ceded Hong Kong to the British after it was defeated uh, in the first and the second Opium Wars in 1841 and in 1842. Okay, it was only in 1997 when Hong Kong was given back to China. Okay, so it was here that Dr. Jose Rizal managed to meet, okay, um, this Jose Maria Basa, who helped him with the distribution of his works. Okay, so they have the same mindset. Okay, while there, Dr. Jose Rizal also studied the Chinese culture. Please remember that Dr. Jose Rizal was of Chinese ancestry. His grandfather was Domingo Lamco, who later on changed his name to Mercado in reference to uh, being Chinese and being merchants. So during his stay, uh, he uh, he managed to observe the Chinese New Year and other Chinese traditions. Okay, he also visited Macau, which was a colony of Portugal at that point in time. It is noteworthy to note that Spain and Portugal were the superpowers in about the 16th century. Okay, so they divided the world into um, parts that they could dominate. Supposed to be Philippines is under Portugal. In fact, the Portuguese could have been ahead of the Spaniards in coming to the Philippines. So anyway, going back, so after Hong Kong, um, Dr. Jose Rizal proceeded to Japan, okay, or Nihon, okay. That's in Japanese. In Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, you call it Repen. Okay. So he went to Yokohama and Tokyo. That's still 1888. He stayed there for 45 days. While there, Dr. Jose Rizal, being a man of knowledge and learning, he studied Nihongo, the language, and as well as the Japanese culture. So um, he was he observed the kaboke. He also observed that the Japanese people were very happy and industrious people. They were polite, respectful. In Japanese, um, etiquette is called rige. Okay, and he learned a lot about Japan. Okay, so during his day, he get to meet this Ticho Shuihiro, who was a prominent Japanese political figure. They both have a number of common things. Both belong to affluent families. Of course, Dr. Jose Rizal was a family who had land holdings in Calamba, Laguna. Okay, so they're in the middle class, and they both belong also to the intelligentsia. In the case of Dr. Jose Rizal, the Ilustrado. And of course, both of them have written novels expressing the objectionable situation their countries were enduring. Okay. Um, please remember at this point in time, um, this was the Meiji era. Okay, the Meiji era. So which started 1862. So Japan at this point in time is in a state of modernization. Okay, now, so among the novels by Shuhiro, or written by Shuhiro, were memories of my travels. In it, he gave accounts of his encounters and fellowship with Dr. Jose Rizal. Another one is Storm Over the Sea, Southern Sea, which is said to be similar to Nole Me Tangere. Now, aside from Shuhiro, Dr. Jose Rizal also get to meet Seiko Usue or Usisan. Okay, she was Dr. Jose Rizal's love interest in Japan. So we just don't exactly know if they have a label, okay, as teenagers would have right now, if they were really formally girlfriend and boyfriend, or they only had mutual understanding. You see, of course, both of them came from two different cultures, but I'll talk more about that later on. So, uh, Usue was the daughter of an ex-samurai who became a proprietor of a bazaar in Tokyo. No, she was working at the Spanish consulate. Again, as I have said previously, this was the time. This was during the Meiji era, uh, a time when the samurai class, the warrior class of Japan, of feudal Japan, was abolished and replaced with modern Western style military. Um, I think anybody who has seen the movie The Last Samurai would, relate to this historical event during this time. So, but please remember that the samurai class were they are um, well off, okay, and they are they have a tradition of warriorship and scholarship. So essentially, Usue was a cultivated and a cultured lady. Okay, Dr. Jose Rizal asked the gardener to become a intermediary between them. So the Japanese gardener, introduced them, and but nevertheless, Rizal got rid of the gardener much easily because apparently Usue was able to communicate in French, in both French and in English, languages which Dr. Jose Rizal are uh, no. Okay. So anyway, so it was Usue who guided him and brought him to different places in Japan, in universities, in parks, introducing him to the different cultures. Okay. I mean, the different cultural traditions of Japan. Um, In fact, I read an article that Dr. Jose Rizal had gone to the Kodokan and learned some judo there. Okay, so anyway, so um, as I've said, Dr. Jose Rizal stayed in Japan for 45 days. So within a very short period of time, he got a girlfriend, and so this is something to think about. Um, the conception of most Filipinos is in the early days, courtship was very long. Not necessarily so. Okay, so in this case, we would see that Rizal was only about 1.5 months in Japan, but he had a relationship, this relationship thing with Usue, who also like him and love him. Okay, um, at this point in time, we want to emphasize that Dr. Jose Rizal, though he is not categorically handsome, but he has charm. In fact, our study of the life and the works of Dr. Jose Rizal will show that he has a number of love interests. So we could surmise that it is his charm, his ability to speak several languages, and his intellect, and of course his manners also, that attracts the women towards him. Okay, so anyway, Dr. Jose Rizal wrote in his diary that um, you know he had to decide between love and the love for country. So he had to sacrifice his love uh, because he had the mission to do. So he left Japan and never to see Usue ever again. So ultimately, Usue um, married a British chemist teacher, and they had one daughter. Anyway, meanwhile, Dr. Jose Rizal went on. Okay, this is a picture of Usue. Okay, so that ends our first segment. We will be continuing the second segment in a little while.